Greetings, this is Atmabuddha. Today is January 21st, 2022. The title of today's podcast is Because Some Truths Are Absolute, It is a Proof That God Exists. This is episode number 55. And the beginning portion begins now. This kernel of truth opens the door to limitless possibilities of excellence. Some truths are absolute. Because of this, it's proof that God exists. Science agrees in truths such as gravity and the laws of thermodynamics. The same principles can be applied to philosophy. In other words, science recognizes certain laws or truths as more accurate than other concepts. For example, someone might say that the earth is flat and fervently hold on to that subjective belief. However, science refutes this with provable certainty that the earth is indeed round. Thus, it can be established that there are certain irrefutable natural laws on this physical plane, whereas some subjective assumptions have no basis in science. Therefore, not all truths about this material world are equal. Logically, then, it can also be asserted that not all spiritual philosophies are rooted from a foundation of truth. In other words, not all philosophies are equal. Some philosophies are superior to others. Therefore, it is wise to acknowledge that a greater truth does exist. To say otherwise is to oppose science. Many books of wisdom proclaim that what happens on the earthly realm is not an origin, but an effect that ripples down from the highest planes of existence. Therefore, if some truths on earth are superior to some people's deluded ideas, then the same must also be true about spiritual philosophy. Any teacher can tell you that some minds have an easier time learning than others. People have attempted to quantify intelligence in the form of various IQ tests. These tests prove that intelligence is not equally distributed, and some minds are provably more intelligent. So then, to define God and prove its existence, we must look to the extremes. To use intelligence as an example, if humans can be intelligent, just imagine the depths of intelligence that the ultimate has. It is very easy to define the extremes of intelligence. You can take any valued characteristic, and there is the purest and most powerful example of this embodied in the highest absolute truth. Whether it's charisma, personal magnetism, determination, power, intelligence, compassion, empathy, unlimitedness, all-pervasiveness, love, and inspiration, the ultimate of all of these exists as an independent, conscious entity that is connected to all living things and more. Socrates and Plato hinted of this in their theory of forms. For every object on earth, there is an ideal version of this in the heavens that we can only approximate. Just as an artist may have a perfectly pristine concept of his next work of art visualized in intricate detail, inevitably the end creation will fall short of this envisioned ideal. Such is why there are so many imperfections that people can experience living life as a human. However, our lives become more perfect the more we harmonize ourselves with the cosmic ideal. The more excellent our ideal, the more profound becomes our purpose. The point of these writings, podcasts, and videos are to highlight a philosophy that doesn't limit anyone. In asserting this, then there also is the conclusion that some philosophies do limit or disempower individuality more than others. Is it wrong to want everyone to have the most individually empowering philosophy possible? This is the only intent behind these podcasts and videos, which is to help inspire and enlighten the world. This concludes the written portion of this, and I just want to take a moment right now to apologize for this delayed release of this podcast. I know the last podcast I was listening to it, I'm like, darn, I don't sound so excited on the last podcast. Probably because I had just woken up and I just wanted to get a podcast out to maintain that commitment, and just wasn't fully awake. But anyway, so I hope you had the patience to bear with me on that. And I think in the future, I'm going to aspire to put out a podcast every day, but I'm not going to put out a podcast if I don't feel I have a suitable topic for that day. So yesterday, I felt inspired and loving all day, but I didn't have a crystallized idea of what I wanted the podcast to be about. And so I didn't actually end up producing one. So I hope this one today can make up for that. And let's go into a deeper dive on what we're talking about here, because it's kind of a bold, audacious statement to say that we can prove that God exists just because some truths are absolute. But when you start taking that down to its logical conclusion, that if one thing is superior to another thing because it's a provable law, like we have with gravity and with thermodynamics, then it can naturally be asserted that the same can be true with philosophy. That there can be a philosophy that is so ultimate that every other philosophy can fit comfortably within the umbrella of the ultimate philosophy, comfortably. And that is the ideal, and that is what I personally believe, that there is no philosophy more ultimate than the philosophy that is written about and spoken of on these podcasts. And I know that's a bold thing to say, but the reason for my confidence is because I've been doing a deep dive of various cultures and philosophies from around the world. And most importantly, the perspective that I have is rooted in the fact that I'm getting these direct inspirations from the ultimate highest truth. And I know that's an unprovable statement to make, but the evidence for me, from your perspective, would be subjective. But literally, when your mind is swimming in this bliss of ecstasy all the time, like every second of every day, for almost 2 years now, it kind of gives you confidence that what you're writing about and what you're doing is true. When your mind is so impenetrable that no one has the power to unsettle you or trigger you or to give you even a bad mood, that is powerful. And I believe in my heart that this is the future that everyone can experience, that everyone who wants to, especially those who want to, are going to be the first to experience it. But there's going to be a ripple effect that as one person is tapped into this and other people are tapped into this, is a snowball effect where it's going to get bigger and bigger, and everybody is going to be caught up in this wave of enlightenment. And it's so exciting to be a part of this and to help act as a catalyst for what's happening next. But yeah, just to get into this, so because truths are not equal, that means there is truths that are higher than others. And if you just take that to the logical conclusion, then you can understand that if that's the case, and truths can be higher than others, what happens when you get to the top of the very, very highest level of truth? What is that? Well, that, my friends, is God. That is the ultimate, the source of all inspiration. And because it exists, this is something that everybody has the potential to access. And the reason why it's important to acknowledge that there is a higher truth out there is because how else can you improve as a human without having an ideal? Because whenever we have a purpose in life, it's got to be based on something, right? Let's say you're a runner. Well, if you're a runner, you might have idolized certain runners that you respect. Or if you're an artist, you have certain artists that you idolize, that you hold up as an ideal to strive for. And maybe you think it's never possible for you to get there, but you're trying. You have a direction. The same thing with whatever aspect of life that you're in. Whether you're a pianist, you want to be a better pianist. If you're a physicist, you want to be a better physicist. You want to be respected. You want to be published. You want to be a mover and shaker. If you're a YouTuber, you want to be a better YouTuber and have more influence, be a higher subscription count as a social influencer. If you're a doctor, you maybe want to be a better doctor. However, having said that, a lot of people who do get in their professions, it's like a lot of people, they just don't care. It's like, okay, I'm a plumber and that's it. And sometimes make mistakes and that's okay. That's just my job. And what's important to me are my kids and my family. And that's perfectly fine too. You don't have to be God's gift to plumbing. If but it depends, right? If you're talking about the arts, if you're an actor, you want to be the best actor that you can be. And so it depends who you are as an individual, if you have any ambitions. But if you do have an ambition to be the best that you can be, you will do that. And I know a lot of people are motivated by money, and maybe they want to be the best because they think it can make them more money. You want to be the best lawyer because you'll have more clients, or you'll have richer clients. Or let's say you are a chef. You want to have that Michelin star at your restaurant. And so the same thing is true on the spiritual path. Now, some people might argue that, well, if you're really spiritual, then you're not going to have ambitions like that. You're just going to be content and accept everything the way it is right now. And yes, that is true. That's part of it. That's being accepting in your heart the present situation. Sure. But unless you are feeling inspired all the time, it's ideal to have a goal to strive for, right? If for example, there's drug addicts, right? The heroin apparently is a powerful drug. I've never shot up heroin, so I can't be a direct, personal experience on that part. And I've never done fentanyl or any of these newer synthetic opioids that are so powerful that there's a big problem right now across the world, especially apparently in the United States. But these drugs give some kind of powerful high. Now, if you are not experiencing pleasure and bliss and you're not happy with your life right now, then this might be a good place to kind of ask yourself how can we get to a place where we're more happy and more content and where we can be more of a success. And the same thing is true on the spiritual path, because acceptance is fine, but if you're accepting everything, you're also accepting what is not good. And how can you be improved as a human being if you just accept the fact that you get angry often, or that others can trigger you often, or that you are in a continuous state of being offended with these little things? I mean, is that really the future that you want for yourself for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years? Or would you like to have an ideal to strive for where you have some resilience so that your skin can be a bit thicker, so that insults can bounce off of you, so that other people are having a bad day? That doesn't mean that you have to have a bad day. You don't let other people drag you down to their level. And that's what having a personal power is about, by having that resilience, having that impenetrable mind. And this philosophy takes you to that place. How does it do that? Because let's say you compare your mind to a goldfish in a goldfish jar, a glass goldfish jar. That goldfish is kind of imprisoned in that goldfish jar. Well, what happens if you take that fish to a larger pool and you break that jar and the fish falls out of that? And guess what? Where is it? It's now in a larger pool, or maybe it's a sea, or maybe it's a lake, or maybe it's a river. But what happens? They had to break the fish free from that limitation that was encapsulating it, that was limiting it by making the world smaller. So the logical step to experiencing the ultimate and coming from a place of unlimited love and truth and positivity is to break free from the chains that bind you, from that fishbowl that keeps your mind in this narrow view, to have a more expansive perspective is what's important when you're talking about your mind. To be adaptive and fluid, so no matter what situation that you are in, you still can thrive and respond and be competent in every situation. And that is what is possible. And the full force of the universe is at your disposal to make that happen. This ultimate truth is for everyone. In fact, it's already inside of you. A piece of that is already deep inside of your own heart. And when we quiet our mind, we can hear the murmurings of the heart within, that love. And more than that, when you can concentrate your mind to a pinpoint, it gives room for the ultimate to extend itself downward from the highest reaches directly into your mind, and fill that up with this blissful inspiration. Because truth is an experience just as tangible as love. And the reason I know that, and the reason I have this impenetrable mind, is not because of me. It's not because I tried to do this. It's because this ultimate truth has empowered my mind, and it can empower yours too. And what I'm about is about helping other people. I don't want followers. I want to have enlightened people. I want to make you enlightened. I don't care if you follow me. I want you to be enlightened. Anyway, this is Amaboda. Until next time, you have a fantastic day.